I started to do research on the new school, St. Philomena in Rhode Island, and was so surprised to learn of her life and her history, and found out, of course, that her remains were in Mugnano, Italy, and the shrine in this little church in this little remote town was fascinating. And I felt that Philomena brought the idea to come visit her. And it was very exciting to me, and shared it with the board and told them it makes sense that we continue to share the legacy of Sacred Heart. And now we have with this new school to celebrate that new legacy with the Philomena history. And it was amazing to pull in with the film crew into this little village right in front of the church, not knowing whether or not the church was going to be open, for one, because it's a big holiday weekend, and not knowing if anyone would speak English, not knowing anything, and hoping to film at least the church and her shrine. It was like a little miracle.
Welcome to the Sanctuary of Santa Philomena, Mugnano Cardinale, Avellino, Italy. I'm Sister Connie Saliena from the Daughters of Mary, Mother of the Church Institute. We came from the Naga City, Philippines. We are assigned here as our apostolate to take care of Santa Philomena here in this sanctuary. Okay, I will tell you about the story of the revelation of Santa Philomena when it was found in the Priscilla catacomb. During that time, we know that Santa Philomena was removed on the liturgical calendar because the reason is there's no fact or evidence, the historical documents about Santa Philomena. But when it was discovered, the body of Santa Philomena at the Priscilla catacomb, it was May 25, 1805. That's the real and true revelation of Santa Philomena. We know that the Priscilla catacomb is a well-known cemetery for the martyrdom. When the body of Santa Philomena was found in the Priscilla catacomb, it was revealed the true story of her life, what happened to her life. It was, some of them was written and drawn on the tomb that was covered on the Priscilla catacomb. If you have noticed, this tomb is the cover stone on the tomb of the body of Santa Philomena, where she was buried there. Yes. When it was found, according to the archaeologists, when it was excavated, it was found out the body of Santa Philomena was corrupted. Of course, it was found this body skeleton with hair, and there's also a vessels which contain the dried blood. During the excavation, it was, of course, the sepulchre was not so much conscious what is inside. When it was opened, it was accidentally cracked or damaged, the vessels inside the tomb, because during that time, we know that the cause of her death was beheaded. And during that time, when it was beheaded, the martyrs mostly collect the blood. And of course, we know that Santa Philomena belonged to the noble family because she is a daughter of a king in Greece, of a place, and that's very precious. During that time, when she was buried, it was included the vessels. And it was, inside that, the vessels is the dried blood of Santa Philomena. According to the archaeologists, it was measured, according to the history of Santa Philomena, she was beheaded at the 13 years old. And of course, it was found out that the body ranges from 13 years old as a nationality of Greece, and it is exactly the age of Santa Philomena. To prove the revelation of Santa Philomena, or having an inner vision of different people, it's true, and it is the same pattern. It was found out on the cover tiles of the Priscilla catacomb is what you call the lumen pax tecum fi. During that time, the sepulchre was not so much conscious how to place the proper intention. It means the pax tecum Philomena, means peace with you, Philomena. according to the revelation of Santa Philomena, her name is Philomena. We know that the name Philomena from Filii, daughter, Lumina is light. It is very possible it was first written there. It was placed the Lumina. The name it's Lumina, Philomena. And that is the one revelation. And another things, if you have noticed, it was placed according to him, there's an anchor. One of the experience that Diocletian punished her. The first, according to the story of Santa Philomena, the first, she was flagellated. It was also there, the flagellum that was written there, it was drawn, the flagellum that was used during her persecution because, you know, she refused the offer of Diocletian to get married. She was flagellated, according to the story, and after that, there's also an arrow there, which also encountered of Santa Philomena. According to her history, she was arrowed, but of course, it's nothing what happened. She was not pierced. And another is the palm. Before that, at the pax, before the letter of pax, the palm, that is a symbol of being martyr during that time. When there is a palm, that's a symbol of being a martyr. And if you have noticed the tecum, there's also a lily that was drawn in the center that represent the virginity and purity of Santa Philomena. It means the story that was revealed of Santa Philomena was there. It was written on the tomb. And that's the fact. It was discovered that through revelation and the existence of Santa Philomena was proved. And this one, that's why many people are continuous having encountered inner ambition, having continuous conversation, especially the devotee of Santa Philomena continues to help. That's why we know the story of Santa Philomena. The official history of Santa Philomena was submitted to the Rome, and it was approved by the priest during 1833. Sister Maria Luisa de Jesus is the one who came here and asked a permission to the priest because I'm having an inner ambition talking with Santa Philomena, and also the priest advised, okay, just write and submit to the Rome, and that is the story that was used today about Santa Philomena. And we never doubt it, because according to Padre Pio, those people who have doubt, it's a weak faith. And that's why we never doubt, we never question the existence of Santa Philomena, because one that was proved is this, and the body that she was telling, because according to them, different people having an envision, the story of Santa Philomena is the same pattern, the same story. That's why we believe the existence of Santa Philomena during that time. And that's all the story of Santa Philomena. Thank you very much.
Io sono Don Giuseppe Autorino, il rettore del santuario di Santa Filomena, sono il custode del Sacro Corpo di Santa Filomena per questo tempo. Vivo qui a Mugnano del Cardinale e soprattutto, ecco, la dedicazione a questa esperienza filomeniana è diventata parte importante anche del mio cammino spirituale. Ci troviamo nel santuario di Santa Filomena in Mugnano del Cardinale, Campania, in Italia. Siamo qui dove è custodito il Sacro Corpo della nostra Santina. Santa Filomena, una giovane donna del III-IV secolo d.C., che verrà, ecco, uccisa da Diocleziano durante le persecuzioni. Ecco, questo santuario ha acquistato questo corpo di Santa Filomena per la volontà di un sacerdote, Don Francesco de Lucia, un prete della diocesi di Nola che aveva un grande desiderio, il desiderio di avere un corpo santo per il suo oratorio. Arriva qui 10 agosto 1805. Appena arriva il corpo di Santa Filomena, ecco iniziano i grandi prodigi, i grandi miracoli, ecco subito c'è un grosso movimento. Avverrà il primo miracolo proprio qui, ai piedi di quest'altare. Abbiamo detto il miracolo di Paolina Charicot, abbiamo detto la devozione del santo curato d'Ars, ma qui è venuto anche Papa Pio IX, Pope Pio IX. Ha celebrato qui su quest'altare, ha celebrato su quest'altare insieme con il Vescovo di Nola, assistito dal Vescovo di Nola per Santa Philomena, devoto di Santa Philomena. Ma un altro grande devoto di Santa Philomena è stato anche il Papa Leone XIII. Inviò al santuario dei doni il pastorale e la mitria del Papa in dono a Santa Philomena. E così tanti devoti che si sono susseguiti e che hanno vissuto veramente una grande fede per intercessione di Santa Philomena. Ecco, Santa Philomena è stata grandiosa, continua oggi i suoi miracoli, ma dobbiamo dire anche un'altra cosa, che grazie a quel ritrovamento nelle catacombe di Priscilla, noi oggi abbiamo Santa Philomena qui, che possiamo pregare e soprattutto chiedere un supporto spirituale. Conclusione. 2 cose ci insegna Santa Philomena. Prima, la purezza, il candore, perché lei aveva scelto la verginità. Santa Philomena ci insegna a dover essere puri, nella mente, nel corpo, nella bocca, negli occhi, negli orecchi, purezza. Accanto alla purezza poi ci chiede di amare Gesù nell'Eucaristia. Santa Philomena a 5 anni riceve la prima comunione, Gesù Eucaristia. E da quel momento inizia la grande storia d'amore con Gesù, l'invito a celebrare l'Eucaristia, a vivere l'Eucaristia anche tutti i giorni. Ecco, Santa Philomena lascia tutto questo, lo lascia ancora oggi per tutti quanti noi e lo lascia anche per tutti coloro, ecco, che si sentono chiamati a seguire questo bel esempio. Qui c'è il corpo di Santa Philomena e quindi veramente il sapore di Dio si sente tantissimo. Saluto tutti coloro che guarderanno questo video, anche soprattutto i lontani, quelli che appartengono alla scuola, quelli che sono nel mondo della collaborazione, ai presidi, ai rappresentanti. Perché? Perché possono avere come punto di riferimento Santa Philomena, una figura veramente importante che sostiene la nostra vita spirituale e la nostra umanità. Auguri!
In 2015, the school was owned by the Faithful Companions of Jesus. We're the only school in the United States that the Faithful Companions owned. They're an order of women who started in France, in Amiens, France, at the same exact time as Madeleine Sophie Barrett. What we had was this beautiful independent school sponsored by the Faithful Companions of Jesus on 26 acres here on Narragansett Bay, 7 buildings. We serve preschool through grade 8 students, and we've done it since 1953. The school opened here on this property by the first few FCJs that had decided, because there were some local children who needed a school, that they would serve as the first teachers. And this was their summer home. So it started with just a little cottage that the sisters came to get away from the hot summer of Providence, Rhode Island, and they would come by the water, and they befriended all the neighbors in Portsmouth. And so the sisters took in the first few children. We started with just 7 children in the first few years. And over the next almost 70 years, we have become a school community that has really flourished to serve children from 22 different cities and towns, from around Rhode Island and Massachusetts, and most notably under this beautiful charism of the Faithful Companions of Jesus. Like most religious orders, the Sisters Faithful Companions of Jesus recognized it was harder and harder for them to serve as sponsors and leaders of a school that they loved. And it started us on this path of discernment around 2016-17. And during that time, we asked the question, how does a school which no longer has the vibrancy of religious women who have the ability to serve maintain its identity as a very unique, spiritually alive community that can pass along the charism to lay leaders and to generations to come, and serving on the backs of generations who have invested so much. And so with that question, we set out on what I thought was a pretty scary adventure too. So I had just arrived. I was a year into my headship, and the sisters said, we can't do this. What are we going to do? And after some real hard questions and discussions, another question arose. And the question was, what's the value of a charism? What's Madeleine Sophie's vision of the world? And how much could you put a price tag on that? And it led us, particularly in this context, through the woman who is now General Superior of the FCJ, Sister Bonnie Moser, to run into Sister Sheila Hammond at the airport while the 2 women were just passing in travel. And Sister Bonnie said, I've got this unbelievable school community, the only one we own in the entire world. We have about 14 FCJ schools, but the rest are owned by governments in Australia or part of larger missions in other areas. But I've got this one school in the U.S., and the context of that school is we don't know what its future could be. And Sister Sheila Hammond said, do you know about the network of Sacred Heart schools? And it began to unfold, and there's no other way to describe it other than act of divine providence, and what I will say, the work of 2 women of courage and confidence. These 2 women of courage and confidence charted a course for our school that just unfolded. And then entered Sister Suzanne Cook, who just a couple of decades earlier was part of the last few graduating classes of Elmhurst School right down the road. And she is, at the time that I meet her, head of conference for the network of Sacred Heart schools. And these 24 unbelievable schools in the network are working as both independent Catholic and Sacred Heart institutions. And she came to us and shared with us the story of what it felt like to watch a school that she loved close. And it's just down the road. And we developed, I would say, a friendship, and then a working relationship, and then a spiritual partnership in discerning what happens next for the school. We couldn't have had a more gracious welcome by the religious of the Sacred Heart to say, this is not going to be our decision in the end. This will be our mutual decision in the end. We're going to discern together if you are called into the network of Sacred Heart schools, and if you feel like we are a part of your future. And the blessing of that experience, founded on a real sense of gentleness, of appreciation for the past, with an enormous reservoir of opportunities for the future, led us to what became a multi-year process to become St. Philomena School of the Sacred Heart. We had to start with where it all starts, the vision of Madeleine Sophie. And so, interestingly enough, when the FCJs were formed, they were formed in Amiens, France, by a woman, Marie Madeleine. And Marie Madeleine Douay was a daughter, and then a wife, and then a mother to a son, and then a religious sister. And she has this very unique, very human story of a woman who lost her husband, raised her son alone, found the best school she could find, which happened to be run by the Jesuits, fell in love with the charism of the Jesuits and said, I wanted to be a Jesuit. And the Jesuits said, we can't make that happen. So in the convent of the Sacred Heart, run by the religious of the Sacred Heart, on the Feast of the Sacred Heart, Marie Madeleine goes into the chapel and prays, Lord, what do you want to do with me? And it's said in the annals and in her own diary, at the convent of the Sacred Heart, I heard the Lord talk to me and said, on this Feast of the Sacred Heart, I thirst. And it's from that call, which is born out of that image in the gospel where the two women who are these two beautiful disciples led to the cross, watching their son and their leader die, hear the few final words of Jesus, and the words, I thirst, come forward. And when Marie Madeleine Douay of the FCJs hears that, she feels her call is to move into the world and respond to that thirst. Who's thirsting? And she leads from that place. On that same corner in Amiens, there's a plaque today where you will find it pointed out directly that the Sacred Heart, the FCJs, and St. Julie Billiard was the other saint. Three women founded their religious orders on one little block in France. So as we uncover these things, we also discover that Marie Madeleine knew Madeleine Sophie. And Marie Madeleine's famous quote to her early sisters is, courage and confidence. Trust that the Lord will give you all the grace you need to fill his will in the world. So the story of St. Philomena's School of the Sacred Heart is not found first in the Goals and Criteria or even the Chicago process. It's found in the story of two women who meet in Amiens, France, and then hundreds of years later, two women who meet in an airport. And if there isn't a more beautiful image in the church today of, number one, women saving the church from closure, women caring about children with a love and a passion and a deep invested interest at both a time in the 1800s when children are ravaged by war, by the uncertainty of culture and climate, and then in 2015 and 16 when it all began, where we're faced with similar challenges and a great need for hope. It is so impressive to me that the hand of God just drew the thread through all of these moments and built this tapestry that really, the story of St. Philomena's School of the Sacred Heart is founded by women of courage and confidence. So even today, when you look around, when you see the image we're using for this conference, you're seeing what we have captured, which is Madeleine Sophie Barra and Marie Madeleine Douay, two women holding on to the heart of Jesus and sharing the heart with two children on either side of it. And in that image, we think the future of our school is born through the gift of the network of the Sacred Heart as our future and built upon the gift of the FCJs from our past. I think there are a few moments in education where the only way forward is to have courage and confidence. And I think certainly this time in Catholic education, it is hard some days to get up and to stand for things that are seemingly not talked about, not valued, not supported in the world. It's challenging to love people even when you disagree with them, when they don't look like you, when they don't come from the same place you come from. What courage you need to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I need to be more in this moment. I think educators are faced with so many challenges right now, from how to work with children of diverse needs and backgrounds and intellects, to parents who come from diverse skill sets, from really challenging and stressful situations, and different communities that may or may not have the resources or the supports that they need. So a teacher approaches their vocation now, and the only way they can do it is to have confidence that they've got something to offer and share that will make the world a better place through their relationship with children. And then specifically in the network, we are a school system of independent schools that have to, before we are independent, be Catholic and stand for these gospel values, and more importantly, carry forward the vision of Madeline Sophie. And the vision of Madeline Sophie is to educate children in a profoundly personal way. And it means often that we have to stand for and be about things that call us out of complacency. And so I think courage and confidence is underlying every choice we make to actually continue the mission and to stand for the vision of Madeline Sophie and to carry it forward into a time and into the world where I think it's needed more than ever. In 2023, as we're faced with so many challenges globally, domestically, even within the network, what we teach, what our curriculum should look like, who we should open our doors for. I think if we start from a place which reminds us that it's going to be hard and you need courage, and that you're going to feel weak and you need to feel confident, we find it together. We have a responsibility to keep saying it and to not only use our words to say it, but to speak loudly with the choices we make to support the schools that we serve and the network that is holding us all together. If you were to walk into kindergarten class on every morning as part of their morning meeting, the teacher in the kindergarten, one of our kindergarten classrooms, will say, who has courage and confidence this morning and who wants to show it? And so then you'll see, a little girl stand up and say, I want to show it. And she'll stand up and she'll scream, I have courage and I have confidence. And in that first initial moment of coming to school, she knows she starts the day hearing herself feel she has something. And so by just saying it, she might own it a little bit more. And then when she's going throughout her day, she might feel it a little bit more. But teaching a child how to even say it and claim it, I think, begins in a very direct way.